Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hi everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Jeremy Cordo. Peter Clayton is behind the camera. How are you feeling, Pete?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, we'll have some news for you tomorrow. But you know, just like every good soap opera, at the end of the year has to leave the audience hanging. We're going to do that to you tomorrow. All our loyal viewers of the Court of Public Opinion here in the garage, thank you for tuning in. If it's either on Facebook or the podcast, welcome to the show. Christmas, dangerously close. I love Christmas. I drove past a house the other day and somebody had gone out there and spent money, and I think the only place in the street. It looked a little lonely, but very festive. Red ribbons tied on the street trees in front of the house, and beautiful lights. I mean, it must have cost a lot of money. It must have taken a lot of time to decorate a whole house like that. And I don't know who you are. All I know is that driving past, you make me feel a whole lot better about the world. So thank you for doing that. Thank you to everybody who's putting effort into dressing things up for Christmas. Overseas, you know, it's quite remarkable what people put in overseas. See, I haven't been to Sydney for years. I haven't been to Melbourne for at least 5 years. So I don't know what happens there, but I know here in Adelaide, quite frankly, it's feeble. I mean, I'm talking about councils and the city council and the state government. I don't think they believe in Christmas. Sad to say that, but there's something wrong. I'll come back to that later. But I found on... and thank you for those people who asked me about the cold. And yes, it's not better, but it's certainly no worse. So it's all right. And Pete hasn't got it because he's got to go to hospital. So I don't want him to get sick. Yeah, if you can Google or have a look at the Burlington Arcade in London. I've never been to England, so I'm not speaking from personal experience, only what was on the screen, and I'm glad I Googled it because it was an absolutely beautiful sight. I mean, I know John Lewis, London, John Lewis spend a lot of money on their Christmas promotions. I understand that, and businesses do. And I grew up with David Jones and Myer and Mark Foy's and Farmers and McDowell's and all of these big department stores who would spend a fortune on dressing up the shops for Christmas, and indeed dressing up the staff for Christmas. But no more. I don't know what's wrong. It's not that I'm getting old or cynical. We have to keep the things that are valuable. We really do. Google that if you can. The Burlington Arcade in London. Just the most beautiful display of a company that, well, I don't know if it's a cooperative or all of the people who rent shops in the Burlington Arcade. I don't know how it works, but goodness me, you should be proud of it. It's fantastic. Really beautiful. I think we have to find some way of bringing Christmas back. Well, having brought that up, I mean, the South Australian government, I've got to tell you, frankly, this South Australian government with Peter Malinauskas, who is very presentable. He does come from the same left-wing faction as Anthony Albanese, but he is very presentable. If this guy plays his cards right, the opposition, the Liberal Party, will be in opposition for the next 10, 15 years because this guy is good. He's good on his feet, he's presentable, he has empathy, he knows how to work the room, and there are politicians who are blessed with these innate abilities. But Premier, if you have 1 ounce of common sense here, listen to this. The South Australian government wants to very provocatively do away with Christmas Day. Peter, is that your idea of smart politics? That's dumb. You're going to do away with Christmas Day. You're going to do away with Anzac Day. You're probably going to do away with Australia Day and Easter. I don't know, haven't heard that yet. But what they're doing is to sort of say, we will have the dates. We will have the 25th of December. We'll have the 26th of January. We'll have significant days, but we will not name them. We won't call it Christmas Day. We won't call it Australia Day. We won't call it Easter. You're nuts. The Australian people are not ready to cop this woke bullshit. Now, if you're a regular viewer of my podcast, you'll know I don't use bad language, but this disgusts me. Absolutely disgusts me. I mean, this guy has got a good political antenna, which in this case has let him down badly. What we get, according to the South Australian Socialist government, we get the dates. We don't get the names. And I suspect the reason for that is that they want the names to just drop away. You see how stupid they are? You see, Peter, if you play your cards right, you can be there a long time. If you do this stupid business, and I have not heard yet about your state legislated voice to Parliament. That's lying very low at the moment, probably very wisely. And also, down at North Terrace, where they had this huge piece of land, and something like a $600 million Aboriginal interpretive centre planned. But the only reason they haven't made any announcement about that is that the Aboriginals can't agree on the design. Well, that's understandable because the Aboriginals never designed anything. They want a building that looks like an Aboriginal building. Well, show me what an Aboriginal building looks like. I don't think there has ever been any Aboriginal buildings in 60,000 years. $600 million, Mr. Premier? And I can tell you, as they said in Yes Minister or Yes Prime Minister, very courageous. If you honestly want to put this, legislated Aboriginal voice to state parliament, you want to really put that in? Courageous, Premier. Courageous. Now, I must say, I'm a bit ambivalent about this next subject, and this is the business of franchises. Now, I think the idea of, and I have no idea who invented the franchise, but it was a way for somebody to come out of perhaps a lifetime of employment, and he or she, with a bit of money, a little bit of capital, could buy into a franchise. It might have been Jim's Mowing, it might have been Jim's anything. These days they seem to do everything, absolutely. But it was a fantastic way to become a self-employed person. I love self-employed. I've been self-employed most of my life, and I really like it. And most of the people with whom I've had contracts have liked the idea that I took responsibility for my own leave, I took responsible for my own sick leave, holiday leave, you know, the whole thing. I mean, it's so stupid to burden employers with all of that stuff. It's about 25% of what an employer pays an employee that just goes on what you call on costs. Now, the franchise idea was great. Now, it could be a genuine attempt to review what has worked wonderfully well for a long time, or it could be this passion that the unions have to do away with self-employed contractors. I'll have more to say about that. I'll certainly have more to say about that on Friday. Half the people who caught COVID, and thank God, while I do have a cold, I checked it again today. It's okay, I don't have COVID. But, Pete, can a cold develop into COVID?
No, I don't. No, I wouldn't think so.
All right, thank you. I'm reassured. Half the people who caught COVID are suffering 12 months after the infection. 12 months. Not just lungs, breathing, but liver, pancreas, and yes, the brain, forgetfulness, fog, and then you get into long COVID, looming as a big problem. Big problem. Now, the thing I want to just reinforce with you, we're headed into probably another wave of this stuff. Just remember the distancing, the hand sanitizers, don't rub your eyes, careful of vulnerable people. Everything that we heard and we were so tired of back in the pandemic, everything is still relevant. This thing did not go away. It's still there, believe me. Now, at the dining room table, jeremycordeaux.com, I read part of the police commissioner's letter. This was about the loss of his son, Charlie. And I thought to myself when I read that back there, it wasn't last Friday, it was the Friday before, I thought, this is so moving. The police commissioner, apart from being a very credible, high-profile, and important individual, he penned one of the really great letters. I'm delighted to tell you that what I suggested 2 weeks ago has come to pass, and that is that that letter has been read by Police Commissioner, written by Police Commissioner Stevens, Grant Stevens. It's been read into Hansard in State Parliament and Federal Parliament. What I don't know at this point is whether the other suggestion was that it be read in every classroom around Australia, particularly with kids, girls and boys, of a driving age. You know, 15, 16. Read that letter in every classroom. Nice to have it on the record in Hansard, but I think important to have it in the minds of our children. He lost his son, and out of every tragedy can come something that is better. And this very admirable man, Grant Stevens, penned one of those wonderful letters that will probably live longer than most of us. But let's get it into the schools. Let's get it into the minds and consciousness of the kids. The Gold Coast, have I got time, Pete?
Yeah.
The Gold Coast, they backed out of hosting the 100th Commonwealth Games. They had a commitment for, when was it? 2026. May I just say, good decision. I really can't think of a faster way to go broke. You know, I mean, look, governments love to throw money around, cake and circuses and building cathedrals to themselves and monuments to their government and all the rest of that stuff. But listen, we have got more important things to worry about. What I don't like, of course, was what happened in Melbourne, where the games were the Olympic Games were cast off. Pete, was it? It was the Olympic Games, wasn't it? In Melbourne?
Oh, no.
I'm not a great sporting person, so I'm not sure exactly whether it was Commonwealth or... Anyway, the point was, they backed out of it. It was a high-profile reversal of policy. But it still cost the poor, hapless people of Victoria $350 million to walk away. And then, to my absolute amazement, the Victorian taxpayer was still paying senior executives employed to run the games in Victoria huge amounts of money on 5-year contracts. I think it's reasonable that Daniel Andrews resigned and got the hell out of there. Because otherwise, I don't know what they'd have done. Probably lynched him, I don't know. Just quickly, one more thing. I want to leave you with this. I do not want to be in contempt of the High Court. That's not a good thing to do. But how could the worst of the worst, terrorists, rapists, murderers, paedophiles, how could they have been put on our streets by the highest court in this nation? I don't understand any of that. Pardon me. Friday, if I'm still alive, Friday, I want to talk to you more about all of this. Because I don't care what this Labor government in Canberra says. They could have headed this thing off at the pass if they wanted to. More to come. Thank you very much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Croaky and all as I am, I'll leave you with a few dates. It is December 6. Pete, what was the day of infamy? I think it was December 7.
No, I can't remember, Jeremy.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that tomorrow. I'm talking about the raid on Pearl Harbor. Actually, yes. I saw a great movie the other night. Maybe they were running it, maybe it was a coincidence, but it was the movie that they made with Pearl Harbor. Ben Affleck was in it. A modern, fairly modern movie rendition of what happened in Pearl Harbor. Anyway, tomorrow. Okay, but anyway, it's December 6. Finland's National Day. Finland, once a well, they were playing footsies with the Soviet Union for years and years and years, and then, of course, they joined NATO. Boris didn't like that. No, none of them did. Ira Gershwin was born in New York City, lyricist. Actually, he had one of the world's best collections of dictionaries. Not widely known. Ira Gershwin. 1896 he was born in New York. Gerald Ford, sworn in as the 40th President of the United States in 1973. Dave Brubeck was born in Concord, California, 1920. Agnes Moorehead, she was wonderful. Born in Massachusetts in 1906. She was in, what was that TV series? She was a witch. And Agnes Moorehead used to turn up as her mother.
Oh, so was it Bewitched?
Bewitched. Yeah, I reckon that was. Yeah. Agnes Moorehead, great, great lady. Richard Speck, the mass murderer, was born in 1941. The Irish Free State was established after independence from the United Kingdom in 1921. Bing Crosby recorded Macromana's band.
McNamara's band.
Yeah, McNamara's band in Los Angeles on this day in 1945, year I was born. God, he was making songs when I was just in the bassinet, and I had the pleasure of talking to him. Now that's lovely. I think that's wonderful. I remember that interview so well. What else? Liquor stores, bars and restaurants in the United States were crowded as the first legal alcoholic beverages in 13 years were served. 1933, the end of Prohibition. St. Nicholas, the Archbishop of Myra, died, and for many, this was in 342 AD. For many, he was in fact Father Christmas, St. Nicholas. Yeah. Joyce Kilmer, American poet, she wrote Trees. Oh yes, trees. Important things, trees. 1886. The last issue of the weekly Australian Women's Weekly went on sale. It was 70 cents. The year was 1982. And then they rather inappropriately called it the monthly. Oh dear. Angaston Bridge opened in 1865. Anyway, there you go. The Beatles began a tradition of releasing a Christmas record for fans on this day in 1963. Have a wonderful evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremy Cordo. Peter Clayton and I'll be back tomorrow. Believe in yourself, and thank you for viewing the Court of Public Opinion.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.